Okay, we are rolling. This is Skriz, this is Adam. We have guest Ken Lewis in the studio. Ken, how you doing, dude?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. For those tuning in for the first time, Ken is a... How many times platinum?
Well, gold, I have 104 RIAA-certified gold records.
Okay.
A lot of those are also platinum and multi-platinum.
How many more diamond? Have you done?
4.
4 diamond. Okay.
You know what's cool? Let me cut in real quick.
Sure.
I listened to a podcast of yours about a year ago now, and you had 99 at the time.
Yeah, I was stuck on 99 for the longest. And then all of a sudden, like, five in a row.
I have the best story. So Ken said RIAA, or is it? So that means strictly America. But I thought whenever you had 99, you just had 99 plaques, and then right behind us, which I won't show, is my Swiss plaque. And then I bring it to you as like a gift, and you were like super grateful and pumped about it. And I was like, so we're at 100. You're like, oh no, that doesn't count. It doesn't mean shit, by the way. And I was like, for the record, a gold record in Switzerland only means, what does it mean? I think it means like 10,000 units. So it's the equivalent of like going gold in New Jersey. But it's still something to be proud of. So we all did it, you know?
It's a compartmental thing.
Yes.
You know, you have done this well in this region.
For sure.
And that is not an easy thing to do anywhere.
Applaud to me and Ken. That was
Shout out to you guys.
Good. We did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ken works with me on a bunch of records. You're a producer, engineer, mixer, songwriter, jack of all trades, world-class finisher. For those who know my catalog, Ken's, I would say your superhuman moments were Me and You, Young Man, Too Close to Fire, 28. You were kind of the mastermind behind that, I'd say. So yeah.
How'd you guys get introduced?
How did we get it?
I think, did Brent
mixed my first EP.
Brent mixed your first EP here.
Actually, Brent mixed my first EP, and which is so funny because I work with him all the time. And I don't think I liked the first round of mixes or something, so I was like, can I come in person and like work with you because these aren't sounding the way I want them to? And then I came here, and I met you. And then we talked more. At that point in time, I think I had a large arsenal of like unreleased music, and we came up with an agreement that you'd want to finish one of them or pursue one of them as a production. Right. And we did that, and that was Me and You, and the rest is history.
What happened with Me and You was that we were going to produce one song to start.
Yeah.
And I was going to pick that song and go with it. So you came over and you had like 20 some
that was the very last one. That was the very last one. Because I was reluctant to even play it to you.
Yeah, you didn't want to play it for me. And I had already pretty much picked out another song, which I believe became Rattle Your Cage. And that was the one that I was gonna... Yeah, there was something else in there. I don't know what the other one was. But I just kept pushing him and pushing him. I was like, Skriz, what else you got? What else you got? And he's like, I got this one thing.
Well, I think this was the reluctancy, and this was definitely me being naive at the time, which was like, the song was... so I already worked with another... like additional production type guy on it.
It had been produced 3 times.
No, it had been produced 3 times. I had made 105 versions of it. You have like bounce 1, bounce 2. I had like 105 bounces of it by the time. And I think the thing was, this is a big thing we learn. I think about it every day. Was like I was making a lot of little changes when what needed to be done was like 5 huge changes, and that was the fundamental thing we were missing. We were like, cut the intro. It was a lot of chopping. You would cut this, cut that, and put it all together.
30 minutes, I just took what he played me.
I think you chopped it up in Pro Tools.
In Logic, actually. I was like, this is your single. It's all wrong. And I sat there.
Well, the magic thing, I remember bringing.
And he goes, wait, and he goes, no, not this one. After I say that, I'm like, he's like, no, anything.
This song sucks, yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is the one. He's like, Sean hates this. Everybody, this is no.
And I'm like, for years.
And I'm like, I will make Sean love this. Don't you worry about it. And I sat there in Logic and I just chopped it up for, half an hour, and I just...
But I think even the most amazing thing that I'm still astounded to, I was actually diving into the session for like a live thing the other day. You added a few things, but you took everything we had.
I took the bones.
And reworked it. That was the magic thing. I remember sending it back to the additional production guy, and he's like, how is this the same song? It's like, these are the same components. Like, all the same components, same composition, same drum sound, same everything. You just totally Frankenstein it, which is kind of like a testament to that, like... Especially at that age, like, you can be so close to something and still have no idea what you're working with.
Yeah, and one of my kind of superpowers as a producer is that I can mix.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people look at that as 2 separate things.
Yes.
But mixing and production to me is the same thing.
Yeah.
And mixing, like, I use a lot of the tools of mixing in my thought processes as a producer in ways that
totally.
mixers don't use those tools.
I mean, having a synergy between production and mixing is like this very necessary bridge that doesn't exist 95% of the time.
And it's so hard to mix your own productions. I've gotten good at it finally, but it's taken years to be
my biggest
really
blind
loving.
spot by a landslide. It's because like I know as like an executive producer for like other artists or stuff like that, I can produce a record and then like be super hands-on with mix notes and be like, and I can just see it. But if I'm the one actually doing it, sounds like ass. I have no idea and I don't know why.
It's a different bubble.
So how do you know when you're like, so Skriz gives you a record, you listen to it. How instantly do you know if this is a record that you can turn into something special?
It's a really good question.
You know, sometimes you just completely miss it. Resurrect Me was a perfect example.
I will say that
played me an early demo.
In your defense, all we had was the verse.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't.
It wasn't a
he
song.
Did with it with somebody else was brilliant. But I heard the demo and I was like, it's not really catching me.
Sure.
But sometimes I can hear a demo like, was it
Young Man?
Young Man. I heard the demo.
You're instant on it.
Yeah, just acoustic guitar and vocals.
It wasn't even a demo. I think I just sang it for you. Literally, you there and me right here.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, when you know, you know.
That's
that was an instant connection.
Have you ever turned down working with somebody because you're like, no, this song, I don't care what I do to this, I'm never going to turn this into...
I turn people down all the time. I try not to produce stuff that I don't think I can do a great job on.
Yeah.
Didn't you have some big ones in the 2000s that you turned down? I'm trying to think.
Right, like that turned out to be like a huge hit that you were like...
Actually, there were a couple that like near misses that got away. Like, who's the piano girl? The Russian girl.
Russian girl?
Yeah, she'll come to me. She's super quirky. Anyway, she got away, and her name will come back to me. Sometimes it's just like you try and line up dates with artists to work, and then they're on tour, or they're not in town, and then next thing you know, she came back. Next time I saw her in a club, she was being produced by the lead singer of the Strokes or the guitar player of the Strokes or something like that. I want to
pivot on that.
Has passed.
Maybe not necessarily production, but just sheer involvement in a song, because you've been involved in a billion songs. Have you ever been involved in something and you took the paycheck, but you didn't necessarily believe it? And maybe I don't want to have you say this on air.
Oh yeah. I mean,
give me an example of that. You have a zillion plaques.
I'm not going to give you an example of a paycheck gig, but
yeah.
I mean, a lot of in production land, I try not to take too many paycheck gigs
for sure.
But and I still have to think that I'm going to be able to do a great job, and I turn production stuff down all the time. But man's got to eat.
Of course,
and I'm not immune to wanting money and needing money to keep the.
But I'm saying, was there ever a time where one of those gigs like blew up and became massive, and you were just?
No.
It's pretty. I mean, again, if they're pulling you in on it, the label's getting behind it at that point. That's usually the philosophy.
I mean, it's so hard to get a massive hit.
Well, yeah.
It's so hard to get a massive hit. It is
so many things need to go right
to get a massive hit.
I want to provide like perspective for anyone who's watching or listening. Like Ken has produced the best of the best and worked with the best of the best. If you just look around, Eminem, Jay-Z, or not Jay-Z, Kanye, Alicia Keys. I just saw Alicia Keys and instantly we think about Jay-Z.
Yeah. But on the production has been like J. Cole, Kanye, Kendrick Lamar.
Did you work like Wu-Tang Clan too?
I mixed.
You mixed
Secret. I mixed the Secret.
He mixed the Secret, but that was the one bought and by that asshole. What's that guy's name?
Yeah, but the government just reclaimed it and they just resold it. I guess at a private sale.
Yeah,
so
like
maybe it'll resurface. Wow. I don't know.
But you know about that the Secret album? Do you know about that? So essentially,
they made basically an art project. It was called Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, and it was a Wu-Tang double album, of which, when it was finished, only one copy exists in the world. I mixed the entire thing, but I have no copies of it.
Which is crazy.
The
security
original
on
creators have no copies of it. Only the guy that bought it at auction has the copy, and then he got arrested. He's the Pharma
Bro. Martin Shkreli, remember that?
Oh, no way.
That piece of shit, yeah. He's
the Pharma Bro bought it.
Pharma Bro, yeah.
And the government seized it, and it's been in a government locker, so the government just resold it.
It's like an NFT before NFTs, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know who they sold it to, but I'm hoping that whoever they sold it to puts it out. It's such a
Oh my god, they can do that?
I have no idea.
Well, they own it, right?
If they own the master, yes.
You never know what the terms of sale are, so who knows?
Sure.
But
that'd be really. Was it good? Well, was it a good project?
It was fire.
Then they should put it out.
Fire.
What are you able to talk about it? Is there anything that you're?
Yeah. What were your legalities to it? That's what I'm curious about that.
I don't know what I can, because I mean, it's a lot of money behind it.
Sure.
So, and it's like an art piece. It's like,
right.
Getting to watch Picasso paint something, and then, how much do I get to talk about his process?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But I love the concept of, I'll tell you the one thing that I wish they had done that they didn't do. Mm-hmm. Which was my suggestion, which was to take the album on a tour of modern art museums. And
it's
have
a great idea.
A headphone listening room, make sure to deactivate all devices, check everybody's fucking ears and make sure there's no whatever.
Yeah.
But provide headphones and let Wu-Tang fans worldwide at least go to the major cities and experience the album before it goes away forever as an art piece.
Yeah.
And they had talked about doing that, and I don't know why that didn't happen, but that to me would have been the real solution to the whole thing, because fans felt a certain way about it to an extent, and of course they would, but as they should. I mean, shit, it was a great album. I want to hear it again.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a fan. I want to hear it again. So, but you can't fault artists for pushing the envelope and making art.
Right.
And you may not, art makes you have an opinion. So if your opinion is fuck those guys for doing that art, well, they accomplished it.
Yeah.
They forced you to have an opinion.
Right.
Mission accomplished.
Time frame, like what year was that?
15, 13, 14, 16. I fucking
2010s.
Yeah.
It's a while ago. Can I curse?
Of course.
Yeah, I edited.
Yeah.
Curse all you want.
Yeah, we won't.
I dropped the F-bomb 20 times.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
20 times. So this is the Rise. This is the podcast. It's more like we talk technical stuff all day. When did you first enter the music industry, and how did you enter? And can you talk about that experience?
So I went to college at Berklee College of Music.
Sure.
Graduated magna cum laude in music production and engineering. I was like a shit student in high school because I fucking hated it.
Sure.
And excelled at Berklee because I fucking loved it.
Sure.
And
makes sense.
Got a gig at actually I went back to Ohio and worked in a studio there for a year.
What city?
Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. Worked in Dayton.
Okay.
And then a year later, me and my future wife would move to New York City.
Okay.
And I started at a studio called Soundtrack, and I was staff at Soundtrack for 3 years.
Who were some of the artists that rolled through Soundtrack at the time?
Let's see. The Plaques, there's one, Friday.
Okay.
Mm.
So I worked on the Friday soundtrack. That was my second gold record.
Okay.
Wow.
Nice.
The Jason's Lyrics soundtrack was my first gold record. I worked on it there. And Soul Asylum was my third gold record. I worked on it there. I worked with Butch Vig there.
Yes, I've heard a lot about that.
Man, I rapped.
For those that know, Butch Vig did the Nirvana album.
Yeah,
and a lot of big stuff.
Yeah, Butch is a legend.
Yeah.
Jesus. It was an amazing time because when I started, and then I went freelance in '95, and I've been a freelancer ever since. And it's just, everybody's like, well, what was your big break? When was the moment? I was like,
that's what I was just about to ask.
Fuck, I'm waiting for the fucking moment. Man.
Yeah.
Come on, moment. Catch up.
Yeah, come on.
I feel, I don't have as many years as you, but I feel I've been in music since I was 19 professionally, and I'm 30 now, and there definitely has not been a big, there've been amazing days, and there've been amazing, things that have given you a bump in your career, but there's never been like a aha fuck you moment. You know what I mean? And honestly, I feel like I've come a long way for someone my age, but still, I
mean, you could say, looking back, the moment I met Kanye West. Sure. But the amount of work I've had to put in to get
there. And then the amount of work you put in with Kanye West, and the amount of
it's just been a one foot in front of the other.
And with Kanye, there were a lot of W's. I'm sure there were a lot of L's. There were a lot of good days and a lot of bad days. Like,
yeah, when I did the horn section on All of the Lights,
and that was a quick turnaround time, right?
I was 3 or 4 days.
It's pretty quick. Yeah. That's like really quick, Ken. What are you talking about?
That was 3 or 4 days of I started immediately.
Yeah.
Danny Flam got here as soon as he could.
Spent all day.
The kitchen. He brought like 26 or 28 horns with him, and he can play them all.
Sweet Jesus.
And we spent like 8 or 10 hours cooking up a basic arrangement, and then I sent him home, and I spent 2 more days just assembling and moving and comping, and because we over-recorded way more ideas than we needed because I didn't know what the final shit would be. And it was just...
And how descriptive was Kanye? Or was someone else... Was Kanye directly giving you the thing? Or was he very vague?
So, well, I mean, define vague. So
I mean, was he like, we need 3 trombones, we need none of that?
He called me up. So he sent me a...
Casio?
Yeah, like a MP3 of this Casio keyboard playing the melody.
Yeah.
And that's all he sent me. And
okay. So there's no harmonies at all?
No harmonies, no nothing. It was literally that.
One note arrangement.
No nothing.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a $20 keyboard. I'm shitting you not.
Of course.
And he gets on the phone with me and he's like, I want this to sound like a marching band in a stadium at halftime. And I'm like,
it's a fire idea.
Okay. And that was almost the entirety of our conversation. I mean, there was more, but that was the shit that stuck with me. And then I just went.
That's what it was. So.
But I turned that shit in, and it was crickets.
You told me that.
Crickets. For like 3 months, it was total crickets. And usually in Kanye land, because this has happened a bunch, you do whatever work, and then you turn it in, and he listens for 30 seconds, and it's a hard no.
Fuck you, no. Or like, okay.
I mean, the great thing is you still get paid. But
yeah, of course.
But the work doesn't get
FYI,
done.
thank you. The gig I did with you and Kanye, I did get paid for.
There you go.
They were very prompt. Shout out to Kanye's team for being professional.
Yeah.
Shout out
Kanye's team.
Yeah, Kanye's team has always been great. But
but you're directly dealing with Kanye, not with his team.
I mean,
he's giving you the ideas, the vision, all that.
Usually, yeah. And then like I haven't worked with him since Pablo.
Now you did a ton on Pablo. None of it got used, right?
None of it could, like,
which is insane.
I did like 9 gigs. I did 2 full choir gigs on
I was
Pablo
part of
for
2 of them.
Wolves.
Wow.
Yeah, I did choirs for Wolves and Fade, and he ended up changing the lyrics on both of them and not using the choirs. But
Kanye's got fuck you money.
Yeah, he's got
Kanye's got fuck you money.
I gotta respect that he's possibly the only artist I've ever worked with who will try whatever he wants to try.
Doesn't let
however
budget
many ideas,
yeah.
come what may, regardless of budget, and he has always been like that since the very beginning.
What was it? Didn't he go... I don't want to say the wrong thing, but like, didn't he go completely broke shooting the Touch the Sky video? And then like, wasn't the Touch...
like that.
Didn't the Touch the Sky video, like, wasn't it not that great or something? He spent like $2 million on it, and then like, it lost a bunch of awards, and he got pissed.
But I remember, like, didn't he shoot for, not through the wire, what was the... He paid for his first videos, because definitely...
Yeah, of course.
And,
of course.
you know, so that's like...
I think you got a story with that, don't you?
Well, yeah, so Kanye has always been...
Kanye's the most mentioned artist on our podcast.
Yeah. We probably talk about Kanye more than we talk about ourselves.
Yeah. So he's got some Kanye stories.
Love Kanye.
So your dad...
My dad used to work in radio, so like you probably know New York City stations like Z100, Power 105, all those stations. And my dad was telling me a story about... This was like... just after Through the Wire.
What was your dad's role? Was he like the head?
He was like the GM, so like he ran all the business side of things.
Okay.
So he was in like a state of the station for Power 105, one of the big hip hop stations in New York. And they had a big executive meeting. Kanye walks into the studio or into the office building.
And this is Through the Wire.
This is just after Through the Wire, but before Kanye is Kanye.
Yeah, it's still a joke at the time.
Yeah, this is just after Through the Wire. And he sees my dad and all these like radio exec types in this conference room. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go in this conference room. He like makes the whole thing about him. And the last thing he says before he walks out, he's like, the only person more talented than me is Jesus Christ. Closes the door, walks out.
That literally happened.
Everyone's like, what the fuck just happened?
I can 150,000% see that happening.
Yeah.
That's just
he didn't have a hit yet, and he said that.
And that was it.
Who says that?
But like, I think there's something so interesting with that, and I would love to hear your perspective on it, because you've worked with, I mean, the best.
So how many years before Through the
best.
Wire did you meet Kanye?
I started working with Kanye in, I think, 2000, at at least 2002, maybe 2001.
Through the Wire was 2004. So 2 years.
Yeah, so I was working with him as a producer before he was an artist.
Okay.
And nobody knew him as an artist. And nobody
When did H2O come out?
him as an artist.
Does anyone know when H2O came out? It might have been around that time, I'm guessing.
That was already out by the time I was working.
I think that was 01, I want to say.
So he had some hits. And
that's why he moved to New Jersey, right?
Yeah, Jay Brown and G. Roberson called me up one day, and they were like, hey, Ken, do you know this young producer named Kanye West? And I'm like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, he had done that.
Yeah, H2O was awesome.
Right. And they were like, well, he needs somebody who knows, genuinely knows rock and hip hop to do something for him, and your name keeps coming up.
He was showing interest in rock that early on.
It was just, it was...
more sort of instrumentation is what they meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, he didn't know how to get it, and I did. So.
Sure, of course. It's a very symbiotic relationship,
right,
actually.
So I did that gig for him, and that was the first thing I did. But then when we were making College Dropout, that was post-accident. Even within Rockefeller, they weren't checking for him.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
He might have been signed.
Everybody thought that he was like.
They were just keeping him happy because he was a great producer.
Producer wants to be artist.
Yeah,
right.
And all of us making the album were like, this is a seminal album that is going to change shit. And everybody else was like, yeah, fucking joke, fucking producer, this is going to be backpack bullshit. And I'm like, people, you got to wake up, please, please, please. This is coming.
And think about what were some of the other artists on the label at the time? I'm trying to think.
Young Guns.
Where are they now?
Oh, yeah, I mean, who did Rockefeller have?
I'm trying to think. They had a bunch of artists. They were the label, but where are those people now? They're nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, some of them still do underground stuff, and they're okay, but they never, it was never that. But, that's so typical of the artist trajectory, and that's why you got to believe in yourself, because
of course.
Not even the people that look you in the face and tell you that they believe in you and are a fan believe in you.
Right.
No, of course.
People are shitty human beings, and they don't get on the train until other people they don't know like you.
Right.
I was on Atlantic Records for 2.5 years. My own A&R did not have my face on his wall. He had every other artist's face on their wall, but he did not have my face on that wall. Yeah. And that's the person I was signed to. You know what I mean?
It's a very typical thing. And so, my advice to any young artist is, take advice for what it is. Advice is just somebody's opinion.
Right.
And you gotta go home, and my dog is spoiling for, I don't know, sit.
But yes.
And, you gotta take everybody's opinion for what it means to you and how
everyone's opinion can benefit you. I definitely have learned that significantly over my 20s. Like, if you can sit with information for 72 hours and you wake up in the morning and be like, I see what they're saying and I don't agree, you've made progress. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, I see what they're saying and I'm going to give it a shot, you've made progress. Like, no matter what, you're making progress. That's the thing people don't realize. The second you shoot something down...
But you can't... The thing is, too many people chase opinions.
Of course.
One industry person of note hears their stuff and makes a comment or says that they like it, and all of a sudden...
Changes the whole dynamic. Oh, it's the worst.
Right, and that's, it's because everybody wants that, affirmation, but... if you just can't chase everybody's opinions, you gotta know who you are as an artist. You gotta chase who you are as an artist, and no matter what anybody fucking says, you gotta take their opinions and absorb them and course correct as best for what makes sense to you. But
to piggyback off what you said, I think one of the most interesting parts of your story in general is that you've been a part of so many people's stories, such as Kanye. And you've been there way before anything even happened. Can you name some people? I'm seeing faces on the wall.
Cruella is one.
Cruella was a huge one, yeah.
Yeah, I named Rain Man. So Rain Man is the founder of Cruella, with Yasmin and...
but that guy's not with them anymore.
No.
And how are they doing without him?
I don't know. I mean, they're still kicking around. But he was originally signed to me, and he was named Blue Blocker.
Okay.
And I developed him as a producer for a while, and he was producing Cruella, but they were kind of a pop group. And he calls me up one day, and he was like, Ken, would you let me out of my production contract? I want to focus 24/7, 365 solely on Cruella.
Okay.
And I just want to do it by myself. And I'm like, sure, go ahead. So off he went, and then boom.
They got signed to Columbia and had like a big hit.
So you're welcome.
She's listening. Gotta send this right to him.
Ariana Grande was...
So, yeah, explain that one. I actually don't know that one that well. That was way before she was with Republic, right?
Not way before, but it was early. So she was in a Broadway play called 13 the Musical.
Okay.
We produced her when she was 14 and 15 years old.
Okay.
We wrote and produced her first EP that she ever did. I was the first vocal producer to ever produce her. And I still have it saved somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I have this voice memo from her calling me from California when she went out to out there, and she was working in Diane Warren's camp, and she's the voicemail. She's like, Ken, I'm in Diane Warren's camp, and they're vocal producing me, and they're doing all the same things that you were doing, and you prepared me so well. Thank you so much. I love you. Bye. And I'm like,
okay, well,
best moment in history.
And so, okay, I'm trying to think. Who did you work with John Bellion?
Early, yeah.
Early.
I produced John Bellion early on.
Okay. So you have everyone from Kanye to Cruella to Ariana Grande to John Bellion. Like, what was the common denominator that you recognized? Or were there any common denominators?
Man, I usually find that there is some sort of it factor with...
Is the it factor musical or is the it factor personality?
I think it starts with the music for sure.
Sure.
And if the music catches me, then the personality has to catch me.
Sure.
Sure. And then, Ariana walked in the room and the room changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people just have so much of whatever it is. Ariana has more it than anybody I've ever met.
That's why she's been successful since she young
other
age.
Than maybe Usher. Usher walked in a room and it changed that way.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And
she's got the hits.
And working with Usher instantly felt like I had been working with him for 10 years.
Mm. Really?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Was it his talent level that made it so seamless, or was it his ability to communicate?
I think he realized that he was in the room with somebody who knew what the fuck they were doing. Cause I recorded and mixed. I recorded the vocal on Confessions.
Okay.
On what was the song that I did?
I don't really know it that well.
I can't remember what the fuck. Jesus, one of my diamonds. Well, I mixed a song on Confessions that I can't remember.
That's a good thing. When you're forgetting,
when you're forgetting your diamond records,
that means you're doing
Throwback.
the right thing. Right.
Throwback, yes. Okay, so I mixed Throwback for Usher, and I recorded the vocal on it.
Sure.
And it was just me and Just Blaze and Usher.
Oh, sick.
And Just Blaze. And yeah, so I mixed for Just Blaze, and he calls me up and he's like, "Yo, bring your microphone tonight." And I'm like,
nice.
"Okay." So I brought it, and so I'm. Just Blaze introduces me to Usher, and we all chatted up, then Justin leaves, and it's just me and Usher, and I think he just assumed, okay, if Justin is giving him the stamp of approval, then and then within the first 5 minutes, I was basically producing vocals for Usher, and I was telling him like, oh, we should do that again, or a little sharp, or he
trusted.
Total trust
awesome.
Instantly, like we had been working together forever. It was
great.
Fucking magic. It was and some people are just like that. Mario Winans was like that. Usher was like that. There's definitely been a few that have just vocally just really clicked.
Do you see like the Kanye thinking he's number 2 to Jesus Christ? Like, are you seeing that with other artists ahead of time? Like, do they have is there an ego, or is there like a thought of I'm the best that you need to have to make in this business?
There's also a fine line between like being competitive in a healthy way and then being a total narcissist. Like, there's a fine line there.
I think most artists undo themselves with their ego. And most incredibly talented artists you will never hear, because they don't understand that this business is so much more than the talent, and that nobody gives a fuck about you.
Can you talk about that more? Because I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, shit,
Talent is necessary, but it's only a tiny percent of it.
Talent is the buy-in level.
Yes, exactly. It's the buy-in. I'm using that for
everybody's talented.
Not everybody's talented. Only a small percent are talented, but you have to have that. That's like your ticket at the door.
Bring me whoever you think is the most special unsigned artist right now, and give me a month, and I can probably find somebody else.
Oh, for sure.
Would stop you in your tracks like that. talent falls from fucking trees.
I think about this a lot when I meet someone who's like insanely talented.
Here's a super easy way to look at this. The Voice has had well over 1,000 contestants on television, repped by a superstar judge, coached by the best in the industry. How many of them
co-signed by big
names?
Executives? Yeah.
Not one single household name with over 1,000.
Yeah.
And that's the music industry.
Well, actually, Morgan Wallen was from The Voice.
Was he?
But like it wasn't The Voice that got him there. It was literally, I learned this actually just recently, that Morgan Wallen, he covered a Florida Georgia Line song. Florida Georgia Line's manager signed Morgan Wallen like a few months later. Dude, I learned that someone I'm friends with now wrote his big hit song Up Down. Like, so many things had to go right in order for Morgan to find his identity and all this to happen. And then, like, for Florida Georgia Line to leave the same label to go to Big Machine and Big Loud, then prioritizing Morgan. Like, so much went right. Like, it's crazy.
In order to get signed is like step 2.
Right.
Yes.
You know?
And that's like 1 in 20 million.
The talent buy-in is step 1.
And even that requires like 20,000 hours. Like.
Right. Step 2 is building your own fan base. I cannot stress that enough. You as
an
artist,
damn near impossible in itself. Like,
you are one of the best at it.
Thanks, appreciate it, Ken.
You know,
nice way to go at him.
Yeah.
Nice.
You really work hard to get actual fans, not just listens, not just likes, not just clicks. Actual fans, and there is just a gigantic difference between getting a like or a click or one listen and getting a fan.
A big difference to that too. Also, thank you very much. But like a lot of people like can have buzz. Buzz is one thing. Fans is a totally different thing than buzz. Buzz can come off super sexy, super exciting, super whatever. But buzz does not sustain you 10 years. Buzz might not sustain you 1 year.
Buzz doesn't help single 2.
Yes, but buzz does not help single 2. Buzz does not even make it to the album cycle. Like
people want I feel like people search and they do everything for that buzz.
They want the buzz.
But in reality, the buzz, that's not sustainable. That's not long term.
I'm thinking even on like the big
Drake or Kanye, who they are.
Even at a moment when like a label's getting really, really behind an artist and they're teeing up singles and they're working at a radio, that still is like buzz. If they cannot translate, I mean, you've seen it probably more than anybody. It's like they got the single, they're doing all this, like they're everywhere, they're on TV. It's like when that train ends, you might be left with no fans. Like you have to convert that into fandom, or else you have a serious problem.
Yeah,
that's the only I mean, we're learning with the streaming age. Like you have fans, they're streaming your singles. Like you can build a big income, and then that can pivot into a buzz moment of. Buzz doesn't.
But the great thing about artists nowadays is you don't need to be on the radio to be successful and to have a great career. And I mean, you're over 100 million streams in streaming land.
150.
150 now?
Close. Nice. Which I think is kind of a bigger flex because 150 means a million singles.
That's amazing.
So I can say I've sold 1 million singles.
Okay.
Which is like,
and
think about the classic rock days, like.
That's a lot.
Which
that's
is like.
That's a big number.
But like for you, so you're an independent artist over 100 million. You're doing well and making money. We produced Des Rocks to over 100 million streams. Great, So we've had a lot of success with independent artists, and I think there's independent artists have the mentality has changed. Everybody thinks that somebody owes them something now. The music industry and fans don't owe you shit.
I'm really glad you said that. I've actually never heard someone say that. That's the biggest.
They don't owe you.
No one owes you fucking anything.
And here's
if someone's buying a ticket and going to your show.
Here's the cold reality of the music industry right now, in the history of the world. More artists, more musical artists, are surviving solely on their music income than any other moment in the history of the world. Period. And that is because of streaming. So, if you're on streaming and it's not working out for you, one of two things. Either you've just got to work it and build it and get it up to a point where it's, you know, a profitable thing for you. Other artists have done it. I'm sitting in front of one right now.
Nice.
Or you've got to acknowledge that you don't want to put your energy into streaming, and that's not where your money or your or your self-worth as an artist is. You don't have to value your self-worth as an artist in how many streams you get or how much money you make as an artist. I mean, art is for art first, And we live in a time where the other insane stat is the 60,000 songs a day uploaded to Spotify.
So every competitive.
God,
every single day.
60,000
a day. Every day. So why you?
Right.
Who owes you a listen out of that 60,000? Nobody. You gotta go get it. And if you can't go get it, nobody's gonna bring it to you. And that is something that most artists can't wrap their heads around. They write a great song and they envision what this song could do if.
Right.
And they don't say, what will this song do if I don't?
Mm-hmm.
And they lose the game right there.
You have to plan on it failing every single time. And you have to come up with a plan where you're going to be successful in the case that it fails 9 out of 10. No, 19 out of 20 times. That's just like... That's just what it is.
Like with you, you have a long-term plan and a long-term grind
for sure.
and a consistency over the course of years that got you 150 million streams.
I mean, I'm set.
People look at that and they go, like, oh, I want to do that tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, you're going to be in the studio 12 hours a day.
We've been fucking making records together since what?
7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this shit takes time. And if you want a career in this, to really do this for real, then you need the talent. That's the buy-in level. But then you need the drive. And the reason that Skriz has 150 million streams is not because he's talented.
I'm not talented at all. I'm talentless as fuck.
I mean, he's super talentless.
Super talentless.
He is the most driven, talentless motherfucker.
Kind of what we were saying.
I think of it like one of my favorite movies of all time, The Shawshank Redemption.
Great.
You know, and it's like most people probably like, I'm going to try to break out of prison. Here's my one plan of doing it. Where instead he was like, nope, I'm gonna just go chip.
That's the best analogy I've ever heard.
And then he's gone. I don't know how long he was in prison for.
I think it was like 20 years.
20 years, but he had the patience to just keep slowly chipping away every night, just chipping away. Then he's gone and he escapes. Where I see that all the time, whether it's music, whether it's starting a business, being a life coach, like any of these like sexy things that everyone wants to be a part of. Like everyone gets super jazzed on Instagram for 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. But then all of a sudden you're like, where the hell did that person go? Where'd they go? Because you don't have the endurance, because to have the endurance to do what you guys have done is fucking difficult.
And one of the kisses of death with especially young artists is getting success too early, because they don't understand how lucky they are and what a unicorn moment a hit single is, and how many stars had to align for that to happen, and they don't understand that it's really hard to do that again. And so
it's
many
actually
people
more difficult
get
the second time around.
I don't know. It depends on
without
your
a label.
team.
I'm saying independent.
Without a label.
If you have like a song that's gonna go gold or something like that independently, to have that type of viral success again independently, I think
really
I've always seen that it's really difficult for them.
Yeah.
But I think kind of talking about what you guys were saying, like the fundamental underlying thing of all this is like you have to enjoy what you do. Like I mean, like I love making records. Like I'd rather die than do something else. You know what I mean? Like I spent 14 hours in the studio yesterday doing like really tedious work, but like
no plan B here. Never.
Yeah, there's no. We just make music. That's it. Like.
Yeah, plan B can be a kiss of death. I mean, it's hard to know, because I know that you and I have fairly unique work drives.
For sure.
And not everybody is built like us. So, giving advice from my perspective is giving advice from the perspective of a motherfucker who works his ass off in the fucking to stay where I'm at.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, and to keep growing, but it's a 7-day a week, If I don't do it, somebody else is gonna do it, and
I think the same thing all the time. I'm just like, I'm coming, like if I worked from like 9 to like 6, and I go to Buffalo Wild Wings, I'm like, am I going back to the studio tonight? And I'm just like, well, someone else is. Like someone else is, and it's like I have these 5 songs I'm working on. I'm like, well, it's like if you want that competitive edge, like no, I got to get this done. Like there's a lot of that. The best driver
is the music industry doesn't care what your excuses are. It's like science. The music industry doesn't care what your excuses are. It's gonna keep soldiering on without you.
The ultimate fuck your feelings. Yeah.
Well, I want to hear, because you just kind of mentioned it there, and I've heard just from another podcast you're on talking about it's 7 days a week, and I think to make it in a lot of these like hyper competitive industries, you kind of have to be like that. Yeah. But then you always hear the other side of like, having work-life balance. Like, what do you think about work-life balance versus 7 days a week?
I'm trying to find it. Honestly, I really am. So I just started a plugin company. So I do the live stream mixing night it's free on YouTube every other Wednesday night, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. So we had to figure out how to keep the show going for free. So we decided the best way to do that, hopefully, is to launch a plugin company. So our first plugin is this plugin called Greenhouse.
Shout out Greenhouse.
I used it on Dan's vocal on the 28 acoustic.
And the Bad Desires.
I've used it on.
He's used on mine. Yeah.
I've used it, but on the 28 acoustic remix,
the whole track
I used it on his vocal and his acoustic guitar. And he calls me up. He didn't know what I had done.
Yeah.
He calls me up and he's like, "Bro, whatever you did, that vocal, that's the one.
That's what we're doing.
That's always got to be the sound." I'm like, "Yeah, that's Greenhouse."
He owns the.
So can you explain that quick for me and for the audience?
Okay, so Greenhouse is my new plugin for anybody who makes records. It'll work with any DAW, and I think we're getting it.
Just for people, the dummy language, like a plugin essentially is like a software effect that's put on an instrument, like a vocal, a guitar, or something like that.
Like to enhance it.
Like modify it. Yeah.
Right. So it changes the sound in some way. It might distort it, or filter it, or spread it out, or make it.
So he has his own. One of those.
Yeah, and
called Greenhouse.
So yeah, it's called Greenhouse, and we'll be rolling out a bunch of plugins. And the hope is that if the plugin thing takes off, that I don't have to fucking work 7 days a week in the music industry, and I can turn down the shit that I just need to keep the lights on. And
because right now it's all service based. Like if you're doing something,
you're
doing.
No, you have equity. He's equity.
No, yeah. I mean, I make a lot of like. I do well in like Syncland and publishing and shit like
which
that,
is
but
kind
it's
of
still an everyday.
Right, but like you have to like physically be in the studio doing it versus like the plug-in. You don't have to.
You do it once,
right?
And do it once, and it's a point of sale.
Oh, I'm all about that. Yeah, it's like my drinking business. Just do it once and you're good.
Exactly.
I was listening to some of your it's mixing or mix nights.
Mixing night.
Mixing nights. And it's like super fascinating for me because as I was watching it, I was like, this is like for the normal music fan, they probably don't care about it. But like for the person that like wants to be a producer, wants to be a mixer, it's fucking insane. Yeah. Like the amount of just like behind the scenes access you're giving them. Like I'm thinking about like a business leader taking them to like an investor meeting or like putting together an investor deck or like fucking Picasso showing how Picasso prepared to do a world-class painting. Right. Like you are giving them the behind the scenes look into it. I know part of it I'm sure is to get Greenhouse off the ground, but like there's gotta be something deeper behind why you did that.
We started mixing night during the pandemic. The lockdown happened and we were like, what the fuck do we do? And we had all of this video gear because I had a audio school online, so I had all this video gear for that. And so we bought the Blackmagic switcher and just started. I mean, it was so by our shoestrings at the very. It still kind of is totally by our shoestrings.
Tell the rise of that. How quickly? What's your peak audience on the night?
Peak audience. The best we've ever done is 9,000 plus live joins.
Wow,
it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Think about that.
But I don't know how we did that. I honestly,
taking no credit.
Okay, so there's two shows, 9,000 and 7,000 plus that we did. I don't know how we got in. I don't know how we did those numbers. Our next best tier, we've done a bunch in the 2,000 plus, 25, 27, 26, 24. Those are when we do any kind of promotion. We usually do those numbers. A no promotion show usually lands in the 450 to 850 live joins, and then we restream and we restream on YouTube. And I didn't expect the show to become what it was. I really didn't. Mm-hmm. It was just, we were just like, it's lockdown, oh fuck.
What do we do?
And then we built this community that just became super special. And I was just like, well, I'm not leaving the community behind, and it became the thing that we didn't know that we needed. I mean, we put so much fucking prep into that show, and it looks like, I hope to the viewer that it looks super easy, like I just sat down and started talking. But there's 3 days.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. This dude, how does he do this? How does he fucking just sit here and just like, you're like a professor. There's no like stuttering. I'm like, how the hell are you doing this?
3 days of prep.
Yeah, exactly. See that? That's so cool.
Anytime.
See, that's what people don't realize. That's what goes into anything great. Is that?
And that's a lot of what a lot of people don't realize is, I mean, if you're gonna do something, do it to the best that you can, but a free show for me, a lot of people look at that and go like, well, that's a whole lot of time you could be earning money producing or mixing or writing, and I look at that as, you know, I have, first of all, the community is so important to us, and that became the most valuable thing. But on top of that, it's the career exposure of keeping yourself in the public eye in any kind of a meaningful way is, especially during a pandemic when nobody sees each other. I have a free show, and I could teach you everything that I know about record making, and I'm getting there with you, Skrizz.
Yes, I'm trying.
And you would still make records differently than me.
Of course.
And so, and this has been like the Dave Pensato mentality for me. Dave Pensato has always been really free with his information.
Dave Pensato he's one of the first people to kind of go public and talk about mixing and stuff, correct?
Yeah.
He's like the godfather of it.
He has a YouTube show called Pensato's Place, which is like the godfather of mixing.
Big records back in the day.
Yeah, he's amazing. And he just
you were on the show recently.
Yeah, he just had me on Pensato's Place. It was a high honor of my career.
Yeah, it's super cool.
So, but he always gave his information away, so I was like, I mean... You know.
I think it's one of the best things working for you, that you're not like closed off to everybody. Right. You're not a ghost. So many people are just like invisible, and the ghost, like, no, you're out there giving information, like letting culture spread, and it comes back to you. You know what I mean? That's the way it should be.
And you'll be the top whenever trends are starting to change, because there's young people that are on those streams. Now you're in being in touch with what 15, 16, 17-year-olds are doing, especially in the music industry.
It keeps you very informed in ways that you can't really get otherwise. And like, we do these beat challenges that are fucking awesome. I'll cook up some sort of royalty-free starter, and I'll serve it up to my community. And we get dozens and dozens of submissions back. We do a show every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. And these people go in. Like,
awesome.
2-3 minute full songs, top lines. The
top lines?
Dude.
They do top
songs,
lines?
Bridges, the whole shit.
What?
I mixed a user-submitted song from the Beat Challenge. I did a live mix on it on the last broadcast. And I thought, like, I'd have them send me this, and I figured it'd be like 30 or 40 tracks. That fucking session was 94 tracks.
Oh, God.
94 tracks for a Beat Challenge.
He made a symphony. That's crazy.
And that's my community. That is a normal event in my community. It's incredible. The responses that we have gotten, and the most exceptional stat from my broadcast is that it's not the number of joins, it's how long they stay around, because our average join rate is, over the course of the entire show, is 20 minutes.
Wow. Yes, that's no joke.
Nobody does that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing.
So, yeah, that's... When we saw the engagement level that we were getting, that was just like, wow, we're building something real. And we're hoping that the plugin introduces more people to mixing night, and that we get more people to the show.
They both will feed each other.
Yeah.
Like, if I was if I'm at Berkeley, if I'm teaching at Berkeley, and you have students that are interested in production or mixing, like, they should be sending them as a mandatory thing for class. Just
have you ever gotten anything like that?
I'm a little bit surprised at, honestly, how low my viewership is for what I'm giving away.
Well, I feel like it's gonna, like we talk about, like that big moment. I feel like there's gonna be one day you're like, is this right? Is there really 200,000 people on this right now?
Yeah.
Like, I could see it starting to skyrocket.
I'm hopeful, but we still do decent numbers, and of course the summertime.
Sure.
For an early evening show, it's just going to be hard to get anybody to tune in. But I think with the Delta variant ripping through schools right now,
Delta variant ripping through.
I mean, people are about to be back indoors for a really long time.
Yeah.
And that was the whole reason Mixing Night was founded, was to, keep everybody kind of connected and give them something to do and give us something to do. And it's been great. So hopefully we'll be able to keep doing it for a long time. And the plugins, hopefully that will feed the show, and the show will feed it back, because money from the sales of the plugins will allow us to pay for the show, because I pay for the show out of my pocket, and it's free, and I don't monetize it.
You don't want to get any advertisers?
No, I want, because I want to know when I teach you something that it is something that I do, not something somebody paid me to tell you.
You want to gain full trust.
Yeah. And
I respect
anytime I do anything on my show, it is something that I actually use and work with and like that. So I'm super, super careful brand-wise, and have passed on a lot of money to make sure that my name and reputation stay like that. And that goes towards, the same reason I did a free show.
Right.
It's like, I mean, some things you just aren't that important to make money on.
Right.
And,
And I think the more value you give constantly, the more it will always come back to you. It'll be reciprocated at some time. And if you just, at least I feel,
in a perfect world.
keep focused on giving value, the value's going to come back.
Here's a perfect example of that is, so I just lost a great assistant. And so now I'm looking for a new assistant.
The assistant's not dead, by the way.
No. He quit, but
he's alive and healthy.
Yeah.
He's fine. But the new pool of assistant resumes that I've got, and I'm in the middle of the interview process right now, is truly exceptional. And I think a lot of that is people who know about Mixing Night, who found out about me through Mixing Night, and who applied to work for me through. So I'm probably going to end up. Well, I am definitely going to end up with an absolutely killer assistant who will probably end up with a wall very much like mine in 10 or 15 years, and a lot of that is because of keeping yourself in the public eye on Mixing Night and just trying to do right by people, and being a good human goes a long way in the world.
It does.
It really does, because I try and keep myself away from bad humans. There's just no reason to...
If I ever get a bad vibe, I'm out immediately on everything at this point in my life.
Life is too short, and time is your most precious asset. And people that waste it, I just don't want it. So,
On that note on time, and how are we doing, actually?
We should probably do one more closing question.
Yeah, I need to wrap by 11.
Okay. Yes, he does.
I have one more big question around the time thing. We talked about before. Now you're on four decades right here of being in the business. Counting college.
Yeah.
4 young decades.
4 decades.
Very,
very young decades.
First and last decade is as young as it can possibly be.
Can't get much younger than where it can's at. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, you've seen some in the 80s. You've done amazing work in the 90s, 2000s and 2010s. Could you give us one thing that would shock us that has changed, and one thing that would shock us that has stayed exactly the same?
Well, we used to not have auto-tune. So I
Sweet Jesus!
I will let everybody
talented.
I will let everybody listening extrapolate whatever they would like. From
I don't
want
to think about that world.
We used to not have auto-tune, and not everything used to come out of a box sounding perfect. People used to actually play instruments and create sounds on their own long before everything came out of a synthesizer or something like that.
There was a band called the Rolling Stones. And they were pretty good.
Yeah, like I remember in the 80s and 90s and even the 2000s listening to a whole lot of stuff that if you went back and listened now would be so cringeworthy out of tune on the vocals.
Yep.
Because we're so used to hearing everything so pitch perfect now. But I don't ever remember a moment listening to those songs back then when I gave the first fuck that they were ever so slightly out of tune on that pre-chorus. Of course. And that's the difference now. Things are so perfect and compartmentalized and thought out and strategized that when something really truly new and fresh comes along, it's kind of super refreshing.
Can I stop you for a second? I gotta give Ken actually a credit and a shout out for this. When we did Me and You, which was off my first EP ever, that was the first time ever hearing myself. So I sing ahead of the beat. I rush ahead of the beat, and I always saw that as a big flaw. And then Ken produced my vocal. I mean, obviously you were changing my timing a lot and stuff, and fine tuning it. But when I heard it, I was like, man, I'm really rushing the beat. And then you're like, but that's the way that's how you sound great. That's your thing. AC/DC does the same thing. That's what makes it great. And then that was the first. I mean, yeah, it was funny. I cringed when I first heard it. I was like, why do I sound wrong? It's well, no, that's the way you sing, and that's what makes it great. It's what gets people excited. And then that, if you listen to my records, that's the staple of my sound. That imperfection of me following my own sense of time, even with autotune, my own sense of pitch. That's the way I sing, and that's people like it. So Ken gets credit for that for sure.
Singers that I love and gravitate towards in general, my advice to any young artist is, it's not about singing. it is not about singing. It's not about singing. It's not about singing. It is about connecting. And it doesn't matter if you're fucking Bob Dylan with the worst voice in the world or Adele. You have to connect, and you can connect lyrically or flow-wise or musically or however, but you don't have to be the best singer in the world. You have to find your tribe and connect with them and grow them from the ground up. And which is tough because a lot of people think like, oh, you know, you should be a musician in order to make music, or you have to be, and they're like, no, sorry. I mean, I'm a musician. I've spent my life perfecting the craft of being a musician and a vocalist, but I don't give a fuck if somebody picks up an MPC and makes a beat that never played an instrument in their life, and you know, that's what autotune does. Autotune allows non-singers to sing, and that's never going away.
Yeah,
it just lets people be more creative with their tools, and that's the bottom line. Is you just wherever the magic comes from is I don't care.
What is something that stayed the same then over these decades that maybe that surprises you?
The shittiness of the music industry. the real.
That's not going away anytime.
It's not probably going away anytime. The real shittiness of the music industry.
Yeah, very lousy people.
Could you give one quick story on it before we jump?
Oh God.
And maybe you shouldn't.
1,000 quick stories.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the bottom line in the music industry is it doesn't matter what you've accomplished or how big you get, somebody will always try and fuck with you. Always. For the stupidest reasons. I mean, people just seem to love to fucking fight in the music industry. I don't understand it at all. Having the ability to do good and fair business is like a superpower in the music industry because so few people fucking do it. But the great thing is, like, when you feel like, okay, I've done good work and I do good business, and then somebody tries to fuck with you, then you're like, nope, I have solid moral footing, I have solid business footing, and this is what it is. If you don't like it, try and go fuck somebody else.
What's an example of them trying to fuck you?
Oh, jeez.
I wouldn't open this can of worms.
No, I mean, it's not no specifics, but it's anything from, you know, pay to percentages to it's always paying percentages in the music.
It comes down to dollars and cents always. You have one agreement, you want to change the agreement, not everyone's on the same page.
So it's less about the production, more about the business side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you try and keep the creative away from the business as far away as possible.
Away from the suits.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. You can't mix the two in real time.
Right.
Yep.
You know, it's the best way to end a creative session is to talk business.
Cool. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. Ken, thank you for everything. I'll talk to you after this. First guest on The Rise.
My pleasure.
Fuck yeah, guys. Kick ass, take names.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.